much for being with us. And I would like you to take the stage and talk to us about this transgenerational trauma that we actually tend to ignore, put it under the carpet, behind the closets. We never talk about it to our children even.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Loud
Yeah.
and clear, Rajat ji. Jai Shri Ram, Namaskar and Swagatam.
Namaskar and Swagatam from India, from New Delhi. In fact, Pranam, I just landed and I came from a 2-day conference, which was on where I spoke about transgenerational trauma. And it's a topic that right now Hindus are trying to understand as to how they carry the legacy of trauma, for themselves and how it has been going on from generations. And in fact, what many of them said in the conference who were listening is that so many of our behaviors right now that we do, they are, they can be explained in terms of what happened to us in the past. Like, for example, somebody was saying that why is it that in north of India, all the festivals are held indoors, while in south of India, the festivals are outdoors. People come out in large numbers, and and then another person in the audience got up and said that because we were so scared of being stoned or because there were prohibitions, and the fear still remains. So Hindus are beginning to understand today many of the fears that govern their behavior and that have been carried on from generation to generation. So I'm happy to say that it is something that Hindus know are beginning to realize on their own. So I'm a clinical psychologist, and I work with trauma, with transgenerational trauma. So, and since I stay in New Delhi, maybe I would give some statistics about New Delhi first. As a clinical psychologist, I work with statistics and facts and figures. So, almost 60% of the porters in New Delhi, they are Brahmins, the one who carry your luggage and who take it, where it was a survey done some time back. Another survey showed that in West Delhi, one of the biggest areas called Patel Nagar, most of the rickshaw pullers were Brahmins, and they were quite open about their identity. Some were not, but many were quite open about it. So many of the cooks, many of the people who do really menial jobs today in Delhi, if you ask them who they are, they say that they are Brahmins. And, it is something that the traditional image that we associate with Brahmins are scholars with a lot of money who are very arrogant. But the real image of the Brahmin, if you come to, say, New Delhi or say any North Indian city, would be that of people who are doing menial or manual jobs all around. So the reality on the ground is very different from perhaps the way it is being talked about it. And I find it extraordinarily strange that America is discussing caste. That, the previous speaker to me said that caste has come to America. And I was really taken aback that how did caste ever go to America? I mean, walking on its own legs, or, how does it go? I would really like to understand that. So what is the empirical evidence that it even exists? I mean, is there any study? Is there any formalized inquiry, psychological inquiry, which has been done in order to see that whether it actually exists or not? Or is it all a rational construct, a creation that, okay, it exists, so we have to bring that in? And to me, it seems that the latter is the case. that there is perhaps no empirical evidence. I was looking for it and I found none, and that perhaps it's a rational construct that has been made, in order to see that, okay, somehow it is brought in order to fill in a gap and an agenda, right? Now, if we see the historically, psychologically, the study of caste, we see that caste and colonialism are deeply interlinked. One doesn't exist, without, the other, right? So it's like trauma does not exist, historical trauma does not exist independently. It exists with the Blacks, with the Native Americans, it exists in conjunction with something else. It is also that caste exists, with colonialism and the way, I mean, India's history cannot be seen apart from colonialism in the last 200 years and our attempts to get over that. And if we see caste, we also see that it is something that is, very linked with that. The British, the colonials, they needed the caste and to invent a concept like that, to push it down the throat in order to rule. They did not see Indians as individuals. They, in fact, saw Indians as, part of a collective. So, for example, I was seeing the other day, all over India, there were slogans that Indians and dogs are not allowed. We were not thought of as anything better than dogs. And those, the slogans, those note boards that were put up were a daily reminder about who we are, and so that we can think of it and say that we are no, better than dogs in any respect. And whether a Brahmin looked at it, or a so-called Dalit looked at it, or a Kshatriya looked at it, did not make sense. We were all dogs, right? So there was an equalizer that existed, equating us with that. So that was a category that was generalized in which we lived, and there was no individuality. And today, we are trying to come out of it. We are trying to find a healing and reconciliation, a closure to that painful concept that was imposed upon us by the British. And why I'm saying that it was imposed upon us by the British, because the British completely took away the fluidity of it. Okay. Now, the most sacred mantra of Hinduism, Om Bhurbhavasva Tatsaviturvarenyam, it wasn't made by a Brahmin, it was made by someone who would qualify as a much lower caste, right? So many lower caste rishis and so many lower caste people have given us the most sacred mantras of Hinduism. I wonder, why is it that nobody talks about it? When I was at Harvard, one of the questions asked of me most often was that, what caste are you? And it was as if caste is my identity. And I would say it is not. My identity is that I'm Rajat Mitra, that's all. And I'm a Hindu, I'm a Sanatani. There is nothing more to me than that. But it was something that I felt was imposed upon. And I see that it's a projection that is, being done. As I said, that I find it extraordinarily strange that caste has come to America and we are talking about it, that as if it's reached there. If this law is brought about, it will be a very dangerous precedent. It will make the children, the young people, see the behavior as something which is hereditary, your personality as something hereditary and not learned. And as we know from psychological studies, that it is extremely dangerous in order to do so. We should not see, and I'm using the word should as an emphasis, behavior as something which is hereditary. We should see behavior as something which is learned. It is something that is irrespective of other factors. Today, with a digital world, behavior is more a learned concept today than being called hereditary or part of it belonging to a group. And if this law is brought about, it will bring the concept of the other. It will bring in a deep sense of prejudice, as Alpert, defined it, with beliefs, feelings, and behavioral tendencies. And I strongly urge the lawmakers to not bring in or not consider such a thing. Today, we need a closeness. Today, we need a closure and not opening of any raw wound. And I think that the Hindu children, whether in United States or whether it's in India, they have a need for safety. I mean, a lot of Hindu parents that I talked to when I was in United States a couple of years back, they talked about a need for safe space. And if you bring in this law, my fear is that that safe space would be gone, and it would be traumatic for the children to kind of incorporate, see the concept where none in reality exists. So with that, and the fact that it is too late in India right now, I would like to rest my case and say thank you, dhanyavad to all of you.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.